Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. And I trust you all had a great weekend. I certainly had an extraordinary one. First of all, let me thank His Excellency Bob Godek, the US Ambassador to Kenya, for an outstanding Mindspeak covering so many things, starting with POTUS's visit and much else besides, and really was splendid. And we're currently in the edit suite. Of course, we've already edited Stephen Jennings. There are two links. One is to the interview I did after the event with him, and another is his actual presentation at Mindspeak, which was pretty punchy, I've got to admit. We had an absolutely wonderful time in the Tsavo at Finch Hatton's, but on the way there we left after quite late because of Mindspeak. So we left Nairobi around 2:30. Got to Imali around 5:45, got to a place called Loitoktok, which is right up against the Tanzanian border, and then we were sort of driving in on a rough road, another 50 kilometers, and I don't know what happened, but suddenly I felt the car, I lost control of the car, and it veered left and veered right, and this was happening on the road, and I mean, it's incredible. I've told Rufus to put up a photograph, and he should have banned me from speaking about it, but anyway, it was pretty dramatic. Your life really is in front of you. My wife, my two children. It was pretty, I didn't know how to handle it, and then of course we were hosted at Finch Hatton's, and it was such a wonderul time. I mean, if there's anywhere you want to be after you've had a car crash, it's there. Let me put up a photograph of just a couple of things, because I came by plane this morning and I've been on the back foot all day. This is the infinity pool, and they've got a few on the edge of the Tsavo wilderness. There's a spa behind you, there's this pool in front of you, and it's open. And I said, what happens if the elephants come? There wasn't really an answer. And I'll also put up another photograph of the poolside at Finch Hatton's. This is another pool, and it really is a super place to visit, and I'd recommend it highly. Tsavo West National Park. Hannah said, Hannah was coming up with some ideas, and she said that the Masai Maras for Nambi-Pampis, and that the Tsavo's for real people. It's located in the coast province of Kenya, covers an area of 9,065 square kilometers. And really is a remarkable place. We saw so many leopards in particular. The place was teeming with them. Didn't see any lion, but they'd seen 25 not too long ago. And really had a wonderful time. I'd like to thank Summit and his wife for hosting us so wonderfully. Moving on, political reflections. It has been reported that a Russian military aircraft flew within 150 meters of a group of NATO warships in the Baltic Sea last week. CNN quoted a US State Department official as saying, "We're not calling this safe and professional, we are calling it routine, but we are on the edge of being very, very uncomfortable," he said. It's a very adversarial world, isn't it, at the moment? Out of options and time, Tsipras faces Greece's moment of truth. Alexis Tsipras has 4 days to capitulate to demands to keep Greece in the euro or prepare for a messy divorce. The collapse of talks in Brussels on Sunday has made Thursday's meeting of euro area finance ministers the next deadline in the saga that opened in 2009. Bills are piling up, and the aid spigot, shut for 10 months, is about to be withdrawn. This week is deal week, says Mustafa Rahman, head of Eurozone analysis at Eurasia Group in London. And the article asks, so what happens if the gathering in Luxembourg is a bust? And I think a lot of people are having to factor that in. Holger Scheitspitz tweeted early in the morning, Greece's 2-year yields jumped to 28.3%. as default risks rise after debt talks collapsed. I'll put up that image. And he also tweeted, spreads between bunds and peripheral bonds widen after Greek talks collapse. 10-year BTP bund spread rises to 149 basis points. People looking for protection. Currency markets, I start in the morning with prices and they change, within a blink of an eye. The euro at the moment is at 112.18. Dollar index around the 95.20 level. Japanese yen 123.61. Swissy 0.9315. The pound 155 the figure. Aussie 0.7720. India rupee 64.075. South Korean won 11.1719. Rial 31.1220. Egyptian pound 762.82, but it's like the naira, it's being controlled a little bit, and the rand 12.42. Dollar index, I'll put up a 3-month chart. I remain bullish the dollar. We're going to hike rates and away we'll go from there. Euro dollar, I'll put up a 1-month chart. Looks a little bit soft to me now, in my view. Hansader always puts up fantastic pictorials. This is crazy. The DAX is 1% move in 1 minute, along with other world stock index futures, and you'll see it was a crazy move. And then on the June the 12th, he tweeted currency pairs during the hiccup. He's very good at identifying market disruptions and things like that. Commodity markets, gold 1174.52. I'm bearish, as I've been all year, as you know. And crude oil below $60, and it's looking ripe to get creamed. There's been a lot of manipulation, I think, in trying to hold it up, and at some point people are going to capitulate. That moment might well be upon us now. South Africa will on Monday argue against a court application to force the government to arrest Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir. UN's Ban Ki-moon says the authority of the ICC must be respected and the decision to arrest Sudan's Bashir implemented. I'll put up a photograph of Omar al-Bashir, his aeroplane parked in Juba, and that was 1,971 days ago. Libya says it's caught the uncatchable veteran militant in a US strike. The recognized government said the strike had killed Mokhtar Belmokhtar, an Algerian militant who became a major figure in insurgencies across North Africa and the Saharan border region, and was dubbed the uncatchable by the French military. Put up an image of Mokhtar Belmokhtar. You can kill us, but you can never kill all of us, she said. It's too late for talking. This is a lady called Nin, one of Francophone Africa's most famous voices, was telling Reuters. I don't want the European Union to act before the African Union. That would be a shame on the whole continent. The institution would be an empty box, she said. The United States has urged regional leaders to tell Nkurunziza not to run, and European donors have halted aid. If our leaders don't move today, not tomorrow, today, and take a position, they will be discredited, she said. African leaders must be discouraged on third term. This is an AU official comment. African leaders should be deterred from seeking office for longer than 2 terms to avoid adding to political instability, senior African Union official said, and that's pretty outspoken for them. We want to discourage the bid for the third term. The third term bid remains a major source of concern with our African leaders. Migrant deaths are indictment of African leadership. This is Jacob Zuma. He's got a fair point there, actually. The deaths of migrants attempting to cross the Mediterranean Sea to reach Europe amount to an indictment of leadership in Africa, South African President Jacob Zuma said, and he's correct. In recent times, we've all witnessed painful and shameful images of our African brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, and children dying during unsafe passage across the Mediterranean Sea. This is an indictment to all of us and calls on us to realize that although we have done so much to improve the living standards of our people, there is a need to double our efforts. The South African All Share is up 4.26% this year and is actually doing better than the majority of sub-Saharan African indices. Dollar Rand, we're now at 12.43. Egyptian Pound managed at 762.82. Egyptian EGX 30 is down 4.391% so far this year. Nigerian all shares down 2.98% so far this year. Ghana Stock Exchange is doing well, it's up 4.33% so far this year. Yields on Zambia's benchmark one-year Treasury bills advanced to a record 24.47% at the Thursday auction. The level is used by commercial lenders as a benchmark to charge their clients. Prevailing high interest rates make business difficult. What business can you do that will give you that return? He said, referring to the yield on one-year Treasury bills. The Kenya budget and why the state should reverse punitive policies faster was my article over the weekend. The optics around our budget making made me recall Don Lino. We are not witnessing the flow of information so much as pure spectacle or information made sacred, ritually unreadable. The small monitors of the office, home and car become a kind of idolatry here, where crowds might gather in astonishment. The crowd gathers in astonishment, and this time it was the headline figure which topped 2 trillion for the first time. The big takeaways are a 12% hike in security spending to 223.9 billion shillings. Our economy has confounded the terrorists. I am, however, sure we cannot bet on that indefinitely, so I believe the above trend increase will be applauded. Many parts of our economy are inversely correlated to security. With tourism at the bleeding edge, I'm writing this from deep inside the heart of Tsavo, west of the newly refurbished Finch Hattons, and we need security to put our best foot forward. The measure to increase the full levy by 3 shillings a litre is a clever wheeze which is going to rake in the cash and underpin the government's road annuity programme. That's welcome because it is clear we've been falling behind the curve in this regard. The stock market appreciated the repeal of the capital gains tax on Friday, and hopefully we can now build on that. At times we're a little slow to reverse measures. Think CGT, which contaminated the bull market, and the Senator beer excise duty, which took about 48 months. And I, for one, would appreciate faster reactions. My theory is that when you exist on the frontier, policymakers have to be more agile and more nimble than their peers in the developed markets. Import duties on sugar were increased to $460 per tonne from $200 previously, and if Mumia sugar is still a going concern, it should take advantage of that. In a clever move, property owners have been given an option of paying a tax of 12% of gross rental income. This measure is, in my view, a clever bargain. Pay the tax and face the reduced degree of scrutiny because it's a cash economy and property tends to be a place you can put your money without too many questions. Expenditure on developing infrastructure includes 143.9 billion shillings that's allocated to the standard gauge railway, 55.2 billion on the energy sector. Revenues forecast to increase an eye-catching 17% to 1.36 trillion, which looks a very bold call. It's worth remembering that the actual numbers tend to undershoot on both sides, revenue and expenditure, and this has a noticeable bias for the last few years. The government plans to finance the deficit by borrowing 340.5 billion offshore and 229.7 billion in the domestic market. Last year, you just had to put up your hand and the markets asked, how much would you like, Mr. Rotich? $1 billion or 2? I am not sure that the golden flood of liquidity is as reliable this year as it was last year. Somali Islamists attacked a military base in Kenya. 11 militants and 2 soldiers were killed. The militants carried out the early morning raid on the military base near the town of Bawer in Lamu County, said Lamu's Deputy County Commissioner Joseph Rotich. Militants also stormed the Mangai village, where they forced men out of their houses and took them to a local mosque, where they led prayers for an hour before they disappeared. Among those killed was Al-Shabaab's Luqman Osman Issa, also known as Sherwa, blamed for leading attacks on Kenya's Peketoni area a year ago, in which 65 people were killed. This is a big victory for us, and also a major setback for Al-Shabaab, because now there is no mainstream commander in the Lamu area. He said that the dead may have included Thomas Evans, also known as Abdul Hakim, a Briton in his mid-20s who converted to Islam aged 19 and later joined the Al-Shabaab. Kenya shilling, last time I checked, was trading at 97.152. That big strike by the central bank stabilized it. The Nairobi Nairobi NSE 20 is down 6.78% so far this year. The all shares around scratch for the year. And the stock market on Friday cheered the budget, and in particular saw the repeal of the capital gains tax as a constructive and bullish development. And we're seeing follow-on buying going on today as well. So I think that was a good move on the part of Henry Rotich. Stabilise the stock market, get it trending higher again. We saw that. Egypt did the same, and it worked. Once again, thank you for stopping by. I apologise for the dress because I just flew in on a very small plane. We left Tsavo early this morning, about 8:30, and landed in the Amboseli where all the elephants were out, and then came to Wilson Airport. And thank you for stopping by.